legal profession, be it anything, are the ones who aren't remain static. We who want to discover, imagine, invent, break, and reinvent. So I regard, irrespective how the philosophers call it, law is ever evolving and innovate with the changing society. It is pertinent to understand why are we all gathered here to attend this FDP, Faculty Development Program. The main objective is to appreciate the change, evolution, and innovation. The need of the hour is to mingle knowledge with technology, and the FDP play the key role here. The faculty members who otherwise do not get time enough to interact and exchange ideas, this is the time to build the network so that we can grow together and upscale ourselves with time. The curricula of universities are updated from time to time to keep pace with the changing demands of the future. Students look for latest curriculum like space law, sports law, fintech, etc., and the developing areas like AI, while teachers are in the making, are well versed with these recent developments and the existing ones, which are the pillars of the teaching and learning process and the upward movement of the department. These FDP allows to marry the traditional understanding with the new innovations. I take this opportunity to thank the university administration for encouraging programs which gives the platform for intellectual talks to upgrade ourselves. I would request Director ILS, Professor Dr. Rohit P. Shabran, to welcome all dignitaries. Before he takes the digital platform, I would like to briefly introduce him to our audience. He is best described as people's people. All those who have worked with him knows what I mean here. He is one who approachable not only to the faculty, to the students alike. He leads from the front, gets involved with the assignments and work in hand. And while you do the work, you are on the completion of the work, you discover the work is half done. There is so much to learn from you, sir, with your vast experience of 21 years of both in academics and administration, 4 published books, and the count is on, approximately 30 research publications. 6 PhDs have been awarded under your supervision, and 7 where you have been co-supervisor. He is on the way to century with some 75 presentations, both national and international conferences, seminars, symposium, and workshops. He is founding members of around 5 colleges and departments of the universities. He has been invited as a resource person in 20 events till now. He has some 36 academic programs and events to his credit. I welcome you, Director Sir, Dr. Rohit P. Shabran. Please welcome the dignitaries and the keynote speaker. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Jyoti, I am audible?
Yes, sir, you are. Please. Sir?
I am audible?
Yes,
I am
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's okay.
Yes, sir. Please go.
I am audible, Devan sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You are.
sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is coming, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good morning to everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you present online faculty development program is organized by Institute of Legal Studies, Sri Ram Swaroop Memorial University, Lucknow, Deva Road, Barabanki. So, first of all, I am very special thanks to give our chief guest and special speaker on this online FDP program, Professor Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Sanjay Singh Sir, at National Law University, RML National Law University, Lucknow. So, for that purpose, Education is the passport to uh, future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. If you are planning for a year, so rise. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people. So it's an honor to be graced by the presence of such an extraordinary personalities. Teachers of academic legal education face a difficult task. We are teaching the digitalized generation of millennials and are committed to prepare these students for a professional life in a society that has vastly transformed in the last decades. Today's students will build careers in a complex society that is changing with increasing speed due to technological innovations. The lawyers we educate will have the opportunity to contribute to societal changes because of their employment in legislature, judiciary, academia, international organization, and corporation. In the increasingly complex society, lawyers' services will transform and also become more complex. This implies that legal professionals need relevant knowledge and need to develop a matching set of skills to be able to redefine and practice their professions in contemporary society. So here, law schools could play an important part in preparing students for their future tasks. Introductions of 5-year law courses and establishment of national law universities have made legal education quite popular in 21st century. So at present, there are about 21 national law universities in India and about 16
Director sir, I think your voice is lost. If you can.
the society to understanding to of law
women, Gram Pradhans and village governance, a journey from 1995 to 2010. This was published in 2013. Reading Lohia, Perspective of the Youth in 2013. Debating Lohia, a reader in edition 2016. He has completed 3 important projects on the issues of democratic decentralization and gender, legal impact assessment, and environment and social impact assessment, funded by ICSSR. New Delhi, Government of Uttar Pradesh. He also extended consultancies to different organizations. He was member executive in Ethnographic and Folk Culture Society, Lucknow, India. He has been nominated as a member of State Resource Group by the Department of Panchayati Raj, Government of UP. He is the program coordinator, certificate course in foreign language, coordinator PhD program, and controller of examination. He is also a member of Academic Council of the university. And this is not exhaustive. It is just a mere introduction about the achievement that Sir has achieved till now. We all are eager to hear, sir. I would request you to please bless us and with your words of wisdom. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shruti. On the onset, in fact, I'm very thankful to Professor Lohit Sabrans, who is the director of the institute. My students, they are visible to me. Devendra, Prashant, Ajay, and there are numerous. So they are behind the scene working onto the different dimensions of legal education. So I'm very thankful to the university that they've given me a chance to share something regarding legal education and research domain. On the onset, I admit that I'm a sociologist. I'm not a legal academia person. And therefore, when I'm talking about on such type of issues, maybe number of questions they are there that you do not qualify to comment on such type of issues. So in order to make myself very safe, I'll start from a point where Justice Chandrachud very recently, in fact, when he was there in a particular conference, he was talking about legal research, number of things. And as you all know, the Supreme Court is the wisdomful court. There, you do not go into the nitty-gritties of only legal jurisprudence, but they talk about the basic philosophy of the law also. And there, when he was coming to the point, he has taken 2 very important incidents. The second one was more peculiar and associated with all of us. He was talking about an student who was very much a part and parcel of our university, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University. He was talking about social exclusion. He was talking about opportunities in legal education. Number of other such, in fact, important dimensions which the present-day democratic setup requires in order to make legal education available to all. So when he was all talking about, he started his lecture from the very difficult notion, the notion of merit and meritocracy. What that merit is all about. And I'm very thankful to my students, in fact. Every time a good book comes into market I'm not aware of, they send it to me, that my dear teacher, please read it. So this is a good gift, in fact, from the side of the students to me. And then Michael Sandel was talking about the merit and other important issues. The book was there, and they sent it to me. So that issue of meritocracy and exclusion is all very important when you talk about legal education. When you take legal education to the broader frame, then one very important examination is their common law admission test. And when you take common law admission test, But you get only 60,000 students, in fact, all over India. They take the examination. Only 60,000. Your population is of the tune of 150 crores. And if I perceive that particular age group, that is 16 till 19, who at least can take this CLAT exam, only 60,000 individuals, in fact, they are taking, and that particular age group, if I'm not wrong, maybe at the tune of 30 to 40 crores. So where the rest of India is, why they are not there at this particular platform? This is one very important question of exclusion. The stakeholders, they are not at all very much present here, whom we are teaching. Where they are, what about them? So this goes to the gender quotient. As far as whole legal education in India is concerned, no doubt with the initiation of the CLAT examination, you are getting a fair number of fair sex there in the legal education. But that's not enough. When you perceive legal profession, legal academia, legal research at large, what you are getting, the women, they are absent, very absent. And those who are there, they have number of concerns regarding their security, regarding their safety, number of issues they are there, and that's another important difficulty. Then he talked about number of other important issues. In fact, one very important professor was there. He is no more now. He has done a good study, and this particular data is from 2018 CLAT consortium data. What he's talking about that 83% of the individuals who are taking this particular exam, they have substantial family income, meaning thereby is not at all represented here. Second very important variable that is very important, 70% they are from the English medium schools, meaning thereby once again Hindi and the regional school education, they are all marginalized. What you need to have English in order to have good legal education, in order to have good institutes, in fact. Then when you talk about reason, number of states, in fact, they were not at all represented there. Some of these states from Northeast, Goa, 2018 data. These states, they are not at all represented, meaning thereby not a single student from these particular states, they are taking the CLAT exam, or if they are not selected there in that, meaning thereby their representation is not at all there. So those who are very close to the center of coaching institutes, those who are very close to the center of education, who are very close to where the resources and facilities are available, in fact, these students, in fact, they are there at the advantageous position, and others are not. Another very important variable that he was talking about is that 80% of the students who have taken examination, they have urban orientation. See, difficulty. 80% of these students in a country where 65 or more than 65% of the population is rural, they are urban. And therefore, this particular shift with reference to rural-urban frame is clearly visible. What you need, justice is required there more in the rural sector. Then, when you take another very important variable of religion, most of the students, nearly 86%, they are Hindus. So what about other religious minorities and all that? Their representation is very less. The CLAT fee, the examination fee, that is 4,000 rupees. That is too much. And that's another important reason that the students, they are not taking this particular examination. So when you go by this demographic data, it clearly shows that it's not inclusionary, meaning thereby whatever was the mandate of the Constitution, what legal education, in fact, we are providing and creating the infrastructure for that, and the process for that, that is not fulfilling the aims that the Constitution, in fact, has set up for all of us. I always say, when I joined Law University, I said, oh, I'm a subaltern. There's Law University, and how a sociologist is going to perform. What's my position here in this whole legal setup? And that's the point. I realized that yes, something difficult is there with reference to the legal academia. So English is important, your income is important, your, in fact, what you call it as, we all say merit is important. But the population of 150 crores, if only 60,000 students in fact, they are taking exam, merit is false because it's extreme exclusionary frame where not everybody is including into that. And therefore, already we have created a society where the merit, what we are talking about, is not very correct. Then, when we are all talking about this whole domain, in 2006 and 2007, Knowledge Commission report came in, and where they are talking about the vision and goals of legal education, number of good things. In fact, they are talking about the content and the scope, the governance issue, the research centers, access finance, infrastructure, and management. And when you go by that, a number of good things, in fact, they are there, number of things they are talking about. But this is one important dimension. So from the demographic frame, now if we come to the research and the interdisciplinary quotient that is required, in fact, as far as the legal domain is concerned, what I perceive law from the three important perspectives. These are not my perspectives. Max Weber is there, and Max Weber is talking about the nature of law, and he's perceiving this law, one, philosophy of law, second, the jurisprudence of law, and the third, sociology of law, philosophy. For example, your constitution do have a philosophy, and that philosophy is reflected there in your preamble. Everything is well. The preamble is, you can say, the basic philosophy according to which the writings they are there in your constitution. Second, the jurisprudential aspect, in fact, which the legal academia, in fact, take recourse to, jurists they take recourse to, they debate in the court of law, they are in fact taken recourse to. You try to find out what are the consistencies and inconsistencies of the law. So this is the task that all the legal scholars, in fact, they consider as their primary task. But there is the third one, which is all more important, and that is the sociology of law. How law works. What's the impact of law? Whether it needs some changes or not. And that is absent. It's not only in India, but in Europe and America also. This important variable is neglected. I have with me a report, Law in the Real World, Improving Our Understanding of How Law Works. This is done by the Field Inquiry on Empirical Legal Research in 2006. To quote, despite the achievements of empirical legal research, there is concern that number of empirical legal research is just not large enough to meet the demand for it. Moreover, many UK legal researchers will retire during the next decade there are not enough younger researchers taking up this kind of work to meet the current and future demands. The problem is particularly acute in the civil law field, including family law, administrative and constitutional law, and civil justice and regulation, where historically there has been less empirical research activity than in the criminal justice. But even in criminal justice, the concentration of much work is on patterns of offending and socio-psychological processes. There is, however, growing for empirical research on criminal justice in the movement. So when you look at the legal research, particularly in any part of the world, I'm not talking particularly with reference to India, every time you are taking that as a text. For you, it's a document. For you, it's a writing. When you take it from the perspective of the discourse, that's very much absent. And therefore, when you perceive any law, any document, it's a document which is always there in the discourse with the contemporary time period. And therefore, there is the need to shift from that particular doctrine, from that particular document. You always say a doctrinal research and always debate it. I always say no. You always use documents. That's all. Nothing more than that. You are not using the discourses of that. And therefore, don't say it's a doctrinal. So a number of issues and debates, they are there. So what this particular report talks about, as government increasingly regulates economic, social, and family relationships, there is a need for real-world evidence about the impact of law and regulation, how mechanism of regulatory control could be improved and adopted, how individuals and organizations can contribute to the overall well-being of the society. Meaning thereby, when you perceive the whole legal research frame, most of the time it is documentary, you say doctrinal, but the empirical aspect of that to a certain extent is absent. And it's not very much peculiar to India. The rest of the world also, in fact, because analyzing and making comments that we try to forget, but we perceive there at the grassroots. And this particular point was also raised by Justice Chandrachud when he's talking about, in his words, we are not judging the laws in which it is working, that context also. And therefore, the future as lecturers depends on an ability to teach a major subject, and civil justice does not easily provide this. So some imagination is needed on how those engaging in the and all that this particular report. But they say it's not only that you are talking about, you are teaching a particular subject, but to what extent, in fact, you engrossed yourself. I always use empathy to we our session. And in that session, we have invited Professor B.B. Pandey, and our stalwart in the criminal law and criminal justice uh, discipline. So I asked him, sir, you always, so where from you have generated that? Because when we perceive the young scholars teaching law, they very much stick to the documents, and therefore it becomes all difficult. So what he said, that empathy is needed. How you perceive yourself and how you put yourself in the position of that particular document. And from there onwards, in fact, you are in a better position to interpret. So when you perceive the whole Delhi school, I say, I've taken one good example from that, where I see Delhi Law School, Delhi University. To a certain extent, there are a number of individuals, in fact, when they are talking about law, most of the time you confuse that whether it's a legal academia or it's a social is talking about that. So this contextualization of the subject with reference to economics, with reference to politics, with reference to psychology is all important, what he talked about. So when you take the course to the scholarship, at least a shift is needed from that doctrinal or documentary sources to what you call it as the empirical domains of research. When we talk about social sciences department, it's very important, in fact. It's not as if the experimentation is new, because when you go by the old law legal frame, the 3 years legal studies courses, already an individual had an exposure wherein the different subjects. If he is from the arts, he is doing BA, he has done whereas the subject is concerned. And therefore, when he take recourse to law, he do have a perspective to understand that. And therefore, when they introduce the 5 years degree course, the emphasis was that they will introduce the subjects of humanities and social sciences in the years, and later on, they will introduce what you call it as the subjects of law. But what happened, since the whole scenario was dominated by the legal academia, what they said that, oh, just will touch the social sciences subject and we'll move away from that. And that happened in most of the law there in India. But they say that 1 year to a greater extent, 1.5 years, not more than that. But what they say that this is BA LLB honors course. So that the idea is flawed. Where is BA honors? No, could not maintain that pace for 3 years or 6 semesters. Just 2 semesters or 3 semesters, that's all. Meaning thereby the moment student, in fact, they are all serious about getting the background of the particular subject and connecting it with the law, it becomes all difficult. If I in fact, share experiences with you, I started my teaching here in the law school very enthusiastically. And it was my dream, in fact, to introduce number of things there in that. So as the energy was there on my part, I was motivated enough to introduce a course on sociology of law. The course was introduced in the 3rd semester, and it became all difficult for me as well as for my students. What was the reason? Because they could not get any exposure to the classes of the jurisprudence, and therefore, when I introduced these theoretical paradigms, in fact, in front of them, it was all very difficult for them to understand and digest. And therefore, after 2 years, I have taken that course back because it was difficult. So that structural changes, they are needed. And yes, the place has to be given to the different social sciences. Unless and until you are not providing space, it is the loss of legal academia It's the loss of legal education, it's the loss of legal research. And therefore, the other subjects who are giving you a perspective of law, at least you should welcome. Another very important thing, in fact, I always say to my students, that whenever you are there and the contemporary debate about the nature of law that you study, that is initiated by sociologists. It's not the legal academia, in fact, who is there at the forefront. So you need to understand that also, that that particular debate, for example, the Frankfurt School, the critical school, Habermas, and numbers, they are all talking about. And their particular discourses, they are setting up the pace for the legal academia to follow. And therefore, the concern is very much there in this particular report also. To quote, the study of law and legal phenomena has not become a major focus for research within social sciences, despite historical links between law and social sciences. So the social scientists, they are not taking the legal academia very seriously, and therefore the vice versa is also there. Explanations included a general move away from empirical study to an engagement with law, a relative decline in disciplines such as social anthropology and social policy, which historically have had a serious engagement with the legal issues. So, unquote. When you go by this, what you are getting, the anthropology and the sociology and their theoretical premises, in fact, they have not been put up in a proper context, and therefore these particular difficulties, they are there as far as legal research and legal studies that they are concerned. Then, if I come to the third part, at least everybody is talking about whether I'm talking about the what do you call it as the Knowledge Commission report. When I go by the conference of the legal education reforms, in fact, 2018, all the vice chancellors, in fact, of law universities and all the Supreme Court judges, in fact, they were the part of the panel, and they were all talking about a number of things. And when you go by that, what number of things, in fact, they are talking about, same, contextualize, same, you just move from document to empirical frame, and number of, in fact, but important variable that is for them, in fact, it was all universal variable for them to accept, is that they need diversity, and how that diversity is going to come. And this another important challenge that we need to take recourse to. And from that same report, in fact, if I take what the Professor Madhva Menon is talking about, who is the responsible person for experimenting with the 5 years law course. But he is saying that lack of focus on legal research, unlike Western countries, here in India, legal research effect is at a very nascent stage. We talk about the things, legal education in the classroom, but what about research that is absent? And little impact of lack of study on globalization and law. This is a very major impact. Now, when you talk about post-90s, the world has changed. And therefore, law is not at all confined to me or you. Law is not confined to India. Law do have an interaction with the rest of the world. Therefore, the globalization of law and how law and globalization they are in with, and this is very important domain. I think there is a very important variable as constitutional values versus individual and collectivity. I always, in fact, the moment I initiate my lecture, I put a question well before the students. Your constitution, after you adopted a constitution, that constitution has given you an identity. And that identity is reflected in the form of citizens. You're a citizen that your constitution talks about. Constitution, safeguarded by the constitution. And for the first time, from the subject, this particular journey is providing you with a lot of rights, a lot of freedom, liberty, and a number of other things. But when you perceive that whole journey, there is another very important identity that is coming to you, and that comes in the form of collectivity. And that collectivity maybe is there in the form of women, maybe is there in the form of women, or you can say gender, maybe in the form of caste identities. Now the question is, your constitution has initiated its journey by enshrining you, by giving you an individual identity. Now, with the creation of these collective identities, whether these two important identities, they go parallel to one another, they are in conflict to one another, or they are constitutional values vis-a-vis individual and collectivity, there's another important challenge he's talking about. Next very important variable what he is talking about is the lack of focus on PG and PhDs. LLMs and PhDs. Whenever you go to law schools and you say, oh, I have taken admission in an LLM course or in a PhD course, it seems as if you could not do nothing and therefore you are there in these particular courses. Meaning thereby, we are taking up law education, law schools only with reference to 5 years degree courses. We are not at all very serious about the LLM and PhD courses, and this is very true also. Then, lower education, the classroom, it looks very good, but there is no engagement to the outside world. And therefore, whatever you are producing, that product is not so effective because the outside classroom interaction is very, very less, very, very less. And most of them, in fact, they are talking about from the same frame. Then at present, when you perceive certain important legal universities, in fact, whether it's a private sector or the government sector, Jindal Global Law School, and why they are important? Because they have roped in all the, in fact, professors who have retired from different center for excellence. Whether it's a Professor Upendra Bakshi, whether it's Professor MP Singh, you name, and they have roped in. Not only that, just like IITs and IIMs, they have made a rule. You get a foreign degree, you come to us. We are going to provide you with some openings. So the Vice Chancellor of that particular university, C. Raj Kumar, is also showing certain important concerns, and these concerns are with reference to globalization education. So because multinationals, they are coming. Free flow of everything is going on with the free flow of economy, free flow of material, free flow of information, everything. So it's not as if you're confined to a particular nation state. No. Therefore, what you need to have a global curriculum. You need to have global programs and global interaction. Now, you have, for example, Bar Council of India is ready to invite outside experts there in the legal fraternity in India. So now we should be ready for that. And for that, we'll have to prepare ourselves. It's not only we are preparing ourselves for our students, in fact, for the present crisis, for the present requirements. No, we need to be futuristic, in fact, in our approach, and that time has come. Not only that, the excellency in legal education or the Center for Excellence, they are very less. We do not provide any attention to the research, and therefore the Center for Excellence, they are very less. Not only that, the rule of legal education, they is upon that, and then the very important is the academic freedom in education. Whether that academic freedom is there or not, this is also a very, very important question, in fact, that we need to take recourse to when we are talking about a number of things. So after saying all that, what I'll say that is the 5-year degree course that movement in 1987, it was introduced, it has done wonders, no doubt about that. But now the time has come when you need to revisit the whole journey and try to figure out at least what new areas they are emerging on. Not only that, we need to prepare the students not only for profession in the code, but also the unconventional professions where there is the requirement. Media and law, with the difference of artificial intelligence to perceive that. And there we need to promote our students in that particular domains. The last important question I always, in fact, quote and I try to explore is the contextualization of law. I started with the philosophy of law, jurisprudence, and the sociology of law. Now I'm putting your constitution in that particular context. After independence, you initiated your journey as an independent nation, as a democratic nation. Background was democratic, and in that democracy, you have put in a book named as Constitution. And therefore, it was looking so good. But just after 25 years, when that democracy is shifting towards autocracy, I'm talking about the emergency time period of 1.5 years, the same book looks so difficult. It is not at all in a position to answer. And therefore, when the philosophy changes, when the background changes, whatever is written there in the rule book, that will have certain other meanings. And then behind these, what I say, the background is the background of market and economics. And in that background, when you put your constitution, you do have certain other important meanings. And it's not only correct to us, it's very much correct to all other constitutions which are in different countries in a different background. And therefore, when the shift that we perceive there in the United States of America, we feel a bit shaky that, oh, might be those conditions, the backgrounds, in fact, they are changing there. Maybe they will change here in India also. And therefore, at present, we are debating on certain important inclusionary and exclusionary things, which at present they are problematic there in the United States of America. But how we are going to get to that? So thank you once again to the organizing team for inviting me to deliver the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Time passed away, and I was just wanting more and more from you. So it was really nice, and I think this 45 minutes passed on as ही मतलब I think हमें और समय चाहिए, हमें और time चाहिए और सुनना है आपको. So please give us
we'll
more
meet
time some other day.
Certain other platforms, and then we'll discuss all these things in detail. Huh?
Certainly. Thank you so much. It was indeed enlightening, and you throw light on some topics which I really feel. I am a commerce student. I don't have a background of sociology, but I appreciate and I understand how important it is to understand sociology, to understand and appreciate law and justice. It is indeed very important, and you are at the right place, sir. You can make it more convenient so that they go to field, they understand, they have an understanding for society, so that they understand law better. So I think more exposure to the society is what is required to the law students. I really thank you for your enriching session. And with this, I think we are closing for today. And we would meet again tomorrow at the same time with more
So,
of such sessions.
Thank you. With your permission, may I opt out of the meet, huh?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can we close the meeting, sir, for today? And I request all the dignitaries to join in again at the same time with the link that will be shared with you.